did the dishes. I was never there when she really needed me. Then she decided she just couldn't have our baby. And I feel because I wasn't around, my child isn't around either. I do the dishes now, but I can never seem to get them clean.
If you are struggling with the pain of an abortion, call 1-800-593-2273.
Welcome back to Love Them Both. I have the most wonderful guest, Georgette Forney. I hope I'm pronouncing your
you're fine.
Pronouncing her name correctly. She is the most informative, most brave woman. She is so wonderful. Please sit to your seats and watch. You will not be disappointed by the truth you hear today. Where did I want to go? Now, through this, you have done a lot of counseling of a lot of aborted women. You were taking these emails over the internet, and then where did that lead from there?
Well, what it did is, as I said earlier, I got angry, and I was watching how now in NARAL we're really promoting abortion as the safe, legal right. And I knew with everything in me that while abortion was our legal right, abortion wasn't right for women's health, emotionally or physically, and as well as spiritually. And so that's when I got the idea that we had to raise awareness, and that's why we started the campaign, and that's what a lot of the work that Noelle is doing and a lot of work that the campaign is doing is to stand up and speak out and empower women to be silent no more about what abortion has done to them. We firmly believe that as people in this country really process and come to understand the depth and the pain that abortion brings to women, that it's not just the death of the child, although as a woman who has killed her own child, that is never far from me, believe me. I'm always well aware that my baby died. But what I learned was that a part of me also had died, and for 19 years I worked very hard to pretend I was fine. And you know, the thing that's so hard is that as we try to help women, I meet so many who come to me and say, you know, I've dealt with my abortion. I had an abortion, but I think I'm okay. But I always say to them, can you stand up and tell your family and your friends about it? Oh no, my husband doesn't know that I had an abortion. Well, then we're not okay. Because abortion, whenever we're silent about it, it has control over us. And I firmly believe that we need to take control of this, that as women, we need to stand up and be able to say that abortion not only hurt me, it killed my baby, but I don't want to see other women go through this. I firmly believe that the hearts of this country will change before the law changes, but ultimately the law will be changed. And it won't be that abortion will be quote-unquote illegal. It will just become unnecessary because we'll understand we can do better for women. We have to. Our health is at risk. Our emotional health is at risk. The health of our families, because believe me, we don't just have abortions in a vacuum. How it affects us spills out to our families, our future children. You know, the documentation in terms of what's happened to women after 31 years.
Here's just a small part of it.
Well, and the reality is that that's all been done by people who have tried to reach 100, 1,000 women, but there's been no long-term study that has looked at what a woman who had an abortion in 1973, how she feels today. There have been no long-term studies just on the health implications. We don't know how many women are still dying from legal abortion. We do know that it still occurs, but we have no knowledge because states are not required to keep statistics. Not only are they not required to keep statistics, but oftentimes when a woman does have complications after an abortion, and it does happen about 10% of the case, when she goes to the hospital to get help, she does not present as, I had an abortion and now I'm bleeding or I have an infection. She just has an infection because she doesn't want to talk about her abortion. So we really have no knowledge of what the real impact is, and ironically, nobody's asking for this information. Well, if we care about women, Don't you think we should be? Abortion is one of the most common surgeries that women go through every year. 1.2 million abortions take place every year. 1.2 million babies die every year, and 1.2 million women are wounded every year. I think it's time, after 31 years, if those who promote abortion really believe that it's good for women, why don't they support us in calling for unbiased, long-term analysis, not only of where we are emotionally, but where we are physically? The increased risks of preterm labor when you've had an abortion because of the way that our cervixes have often been compromised and scarred, on the problems that we have afterwards with infections, pelvic inflammatory disease, hemorrhaging. You know, the list goes on, but nobody talks about these things. Right. I'm looking at abortion from the woman's perspective.
I have to tell you, I had a nurse on here who works in a big Pittsburgh women's hospital, and the doctors they'll be on staff, you know, they'll carry privileges at these hospitals. They had a woman hemorrhaging, rushed her to this hospital, and the doctor was more concerned about finishing the abortion than attending to the woman. And this nurse friend of mine said, if that would have been any other place that happened, that he would have been thrown out on his ear, that he didn't attend to her, saving her life. He was worried about finishing his abortion.
You know, Janet, what I found is that unfortunately, now that I'm involved in the pro-life movement, I understand what's going on and how that stuff happens. You know, this morning I just read, there was a new article that came out that the abortion doctor, George Tiller from Kansas, who does a lot of the late-term partial birth abortions.
He has an incinerator right on site to incinerate the babies.
Yes, but just last week he had a woman taken out by ambulance. But there's no data on this woman. Nobody knows anything about what's happened to her. And nobody will talk about this.
Exactly.
Well, shouldn't women be informed about this stuff? Shouldn't we be talking about it?
No,
I mean,
because
aren't we an open society?
Your local abortion clinic has less regulation than your veterinarian who gives your dog a bath today.
Well,
they have less follow-up.
But you know, that's the thing.
Why aren't they following up?
And you're absolutely right. But the problem is that people in the general public don't understand those things. That's why this show is so wonderful.
Exactly.
And I really applaud your efforts to do this type of thing, because people in the general public, I was not aware that abortion clinics were not regulated. I was not aware that women were still dying from legal, safe abortions. I mean, these things are still occurring. We don't want to talk about abortion. It's a very difficult subject.
And we can't get any form besides this little podunk cable station.
But
sorry,
you know, but
thank
you're
you.
doing great stuff here.
But you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
The Spin Sisters are not going to let us on NBC tonight.
No, they're not.
Or Oprah.
But you know what? Between the internet and between cable access stations like this, I believe that our message.
I'm so in my anger stage over this. Why can't we get this out to women?
We are going to make a difference, and we are getting it out to there. And we are not going to give up. And I'll tell you, I was really encouraged last year at the March for Life. Senator Zell Miller, who just spoke at the convention, he wrote this book, and in the book he talks about the fact that he saw us holding our "I regret my abortion" signs in Washington, D.C., and that helped him to understand that not only does abortion kill the baby, and he was really coming to that as he was dealing with his grandchildren that his family was now having, but then when he saw our signs, he saw that abortion doesn't even help the woman. So why support that? And that's really how he changed his mind. So I am hopeful. I'm very encouraged.
I'm like, it's 30 years too late. We've got to get the truth out.
Well,
you know?
we really don't want to see any more women hurt.
Right.
I will definitely agree.
The baby gets a death sentence, but the woman gets a life sentence. A life sentence of emotional, physical.
I want to encourage us to really make sure that we talk about the fact that we have a lot of outstanding programs available to help